Good, happy Thursday morning, December 5th, 2019. I'm Riley King, and welcome to the Riley King Newscast, right here on the Riley King Network. Let's begin. First up, as snow piled up this week, so did costs for cities, towns. Length of storm drives up costs to keep roads clear. Let's take a listen to that video from WMUR News 9, Jennifer Crompton.
We feel that if a customer wants their product and they're ambitious and they want to do it today, if we have it here in stock, we have the people, the trucking, and why put off till tomorrow what we can do today?
Visit us at powellstone.com.
Like so many other New Hampshire communities, Durham Public Works crews will spend the night removing the snow piled up downtown. The first big snow event of the season, overwhelming the budget and personnel.
This storm was a real humdinger.
The town administrator says it's cost Durham $25,000 so far, much more than usual. It's not the amount of snow that fell, it's the duration. 2 waves lasting over 48 hours.
That involves regular time, overtime, and double overtime. We put down 96 tons of salt on the road and a little bit more sand than that as well.
30 hours can be a typical one, but not this long.
But you doing okay today?
Yeah, I could use a little bit more rest, but dedication.
And another frustration, snow casting. That's when property owners throw snow from their driveway onto the road. It tends to happen more often when a storm takes repeated cleanings. The police chief in Lee says they issued 3 warnings in this storm, a $100 fine if it happens again. Durham's DPW director says the ordinance against snowcasting is common and needs reminding.
Somebody's driving on a perfectly nice, smooth, plowed road, and then they encounter all kinds of snow and ice chunks and all that stuff. So it's very dangerous.
You know, many communities like Durham will be removing their snow piles tonight. Portsmouth will do it tomorrow night. The overall cost, according to the Department of Public Works director, $40,000 for this removal alone. We're live in Portsmouth. Jennifer Crompton, WMUR News 9.
Okay, and there you go on that video and that report. Juvenile hospitalized after latest incident at Granite Pathways Youth Treatment Center. Let's take a listen to that video from WMUR News 9.
Chapel Tractor has been in our family since 1955, when great-grandfather Pearlie and our grandfather George decided to...
Right now, also some breaking news. Authorities were called to a youth addiction treatment center in Manchester this afternoon after a juvenile ingested hand sanitizer. The juvenile was taken from Granite Pathways to Elliott Hospital for treatment. No further information on the juvenile's conditions have yet been released. DHHS has just now released a statement. It reads in part that this is a serious situation. It is clear that Granite Pathways is not equipped to deal with the necessary level of services that were required for the individuals they admitted for treatment. At this time, all other youths have been transferred out of the facility. This comes more than a week after the state terminated one of its contracts with the provider after 2 confirmed overdose incidents.
Okay, and there you go on that video and that report. Manchester officials approve resettlement of refugees in city. Let's take a listen to that video from WMUR News 9.
Customers will call in or email in and just tell us that he was at the store, and from the beginning of the sale till the delivery, it was a great experience. And as a business owner, that's what we strive for.
Visit us at powellstone.com.
Manchester is extending a welcome to about 24 refugee families, totaling around 100 new residents. Under new federal rules, city and state leaders must give their approval before refugee resettlement agencies apply for federal funding. Last week, Governor Chris Sununu gave consent. The Manchester mayor and board of aldermen voted for it last night.
They've really made tremendous impact on our community, starting small businesses and adding to the diversity and how wonderful our community is.
The International Institute, a resettlement agency in Manchester, will disperse funds, money to help families with resources to be successful, like English classes.
I'm super excited that the city was able to come together and have this unanimous vote of saying yes, we want Manchester to be a welcoming space for refugees.
Deo Mwano, a former refugee from the Democratic Republic of the Congo, settled in Manchester with his family and runs his own consulting company now.
So I've been living here for the last 19 years, and I've benefited tremendously by this community.
And the mayor says many of the refugees coming here will be reunited with their families already living here. Live in Manchester tonight, Jean Mackin, WMUR News 9.
Okay, and there you go on that video and that report. Officials warn ice still not thick enough for walking on and snowmobiling. Weeks of freezing weather needed before ice considered safe. Let's take a listen to that video from WMUR News 9, Suzanne Rowntree.
At Bell Tapes, customers will find everything they need for a building project. The brand names you trust to perform. And with a fleet of over 50 delivery vehicles, we deliver when and where our customers need them. Bell Tapes Building Products. 9 locations throughout New Hampshire and Massachusetts.
Captain Michael Eastman says ice can change from day to day.
In my experience working here, I've walked out across ice that was perfectly fine, and then the next weekend it was not. So you never know how it's going to be, especially on rivers. Some larger bodies of water like Lake Winnipesaukee, where there's actually water that's running through it, and multiple tributaries coming into it. It could change very quickly.
Right now, the ice on New Hampshire's lakes, ponds, and rivers is too thin for anything.
For clear ice, and that's not ice with snow on top of it, that 4 to 6 inches is good for dispersed people. 8 to 10 inches is good for OHRV snowmobile use. Obviously, both of those are a little bit different just because the speeds they can travel over the top of it.
Avid hockey players say they love playing on ponds, but they are staying away from them for a while.
Never. No, it's not safe right now.
It hasn't been cold enough, a long enough period to make the ice thick enough to get out there to be safe.
Eastman says it's important to talk to your kids about the danger of venturing out onto the ice this time of the year. These kids are paying close attention.
If you go out on the ice when it's not frozen, you can fall through.
Don't go out without their permission, and preferably with a parent.
And when it comes to your dogs falling through the ice, he says to call 911 and let the firefighters who have been trained and have the proper equipment save your pooch. And word has it that it's going to be weeks before the ice is safe. In Concord, Suzanne Rowntree, WMUR News 9.
Okay, and there you go on that video and that report. Senator Shaheen calls for sanctions against country of Lebanon over Dover man's detention. Let's take a listen to that video from WMUR News 9, Siobhan Lopez.
Chapel Tractor has been in our family since 1955, when great-grandfather Pearlie and our grandfather George decided to sell.
Dover business owner Amer Fakhoury has been held in Lebanon for 83 days.
I know that Mr. Fakhoury's customers miss him, his family misses him.
His family has been working with Senator Jeanne Shaheen to bring him back home.
This is a very serious situation that has not been taken seriously by the officials of the Lebanese government, and they need to be on notice that we are looking very carefully and closely at what they're doing.
Lebanese officials say Fakhoury was detained over his work at a prison decades ago. According to news reports in Lebanon and information from U.S. officials, Fakhoury worked as a warden at the Khayyam prison in the late 80s to early 90s and was dubbed the Butcher of Khayyam.
Documents that have been provided by Mr. Fakhoury's lawyer that clearly indicate that he is not the individual that the Lebanese and Hezbollah-linked papers allege him to be.
Every day, the U.S. Embassy team in Beirut is working very hard to secure the release of the unjustly detained Amer Fakhoury.
Joey Hood, Principal Deputy Assistant Secretary for the Bureau of Near Eastern Affairs, says embassy officials visited with Mr. Fakhoury today. Senator Shaheen says Fakhoury's current health status is of critical concern.
If he dies in the custody of Lebanese officials, that Lebanon should be subject to sanctions under Section 7031C of the State Department of Foreign Operations Act.
This sign on the door shows that they do plan to reopen this restaurant soon. Meantime, Secretary Hood says getting Fakhoury home safely is a top priority for the embassy and the State Department. Reporting in Dover tonight, Siobhan Lopez, WMUR News 9.
Okay, and there you go on that video and that report. Gabbard rents home in New Hampshire in last month before primary. Democratic presidential candidate says she's hoping for success in Granite State. Let's take a listen to that video from WMUR News 9, Adam Sexton.
The customers will call in or email in and just tell us that I was at the store, and from the beginning of the sale till the delivery, it was a great experience. And as a business owner, that's what we strive for.
Visit us at powellstone.com.
These days, Tulsi Gabbard isn't just any candidate walking down the streets of New Hampshire. She's spending so much time in the Granite State that she's renting a small home now, right outside Manchester.
I don't know, we had a town hall in Rochester and then in Guilford right before the storm hit. And people said, oh, you must be getting out of town. It's like, nope, we're here for the duration.
In fact, the Hawaii Congresswoman tweeted out a photo of a snowbound yoga session at her new place on Tuesday.
I grew up in Hawaii where Christmas was, 80 degrees and a day at the beach. And so being here in the winter, we always, the first snow of the year is always fun.
As Gabbard goes hyper-local in New Hampshire, the National Guard major is reacting to Vote Vets, a progressive veterans organization, backing Mayor Pete Buttigieg.
Yeah, disappointed, but again, endorsements are not everything.
No matter the national dynamics of the race, Congresswoman Gabbard does feel like she's found a bit of a home here, and she believes the first-in-the-nation primary gives her the best chance to break through.
We're going to continue doing what we're doing, campaigning, holding town halls, going out and visiting and meeting with people where they are.
In Manchester, Adam Sexton, WMUR News 9.
Okay, and there you go on that video and that report. Very cool indeed. And now let's take a look at your 2020 New Hampshire candidate tracker for today. We have 3 candidates in New Hampshire today for December 5th, 2019. Let's begin with the first candidate, Pete Buttigieg. He has 4 events today in New Hampshire. His first event, Candidate Cafe Series at the Airport Diner in Manchester, New Hampshire at 9 a.m. with Pete Buttigieg on WMUR TV. His second event, Town Hall at New England College in Henniker, New Hampshire at 11:30 a.m. His third event, Town Hall at Milford Town Hall in Milford, New Hampshire at 2:30 p.m. And his fourth event, Town Hall at Exeter High School in Exeter, New Hampshire at 7 o'clock p.m. Tulsi Gabbard. She has a town hall at the Community Oven in Hampton, New Hampshire at 4:30 p.m. And Marianne Williamson. She has 3 events today in New Hampshire. Her first event, speaking at Art in the Age Cafe in Tamworth, New Hampshire at 12 o'clock p.m. Her second event, visit to White Mountain Cafe and Bookstore in Gorham, New Hampshire at 3 p.m. And her third visit to Plain Kate's Riverside Saloon in Franconia, New Hampshire at 6:30 p.m. Those are all the candidates in New Hampshire today. U.S. futures point to a slightly higher open. U.S. stock index future were slightly higher Thursday morning. 3 dead in shooting at Pearl Harbor Naval Shipyard. Let's take a listen to that video from ABC News. Sorry about that one. From ABC News.
Joint Base Pearl Harbor Hickam in Hawaii put on lockdown Wednesday afternoon following reports of an active shooter. The suspect shot 3 civilian Department of Defense workers.
I can confirm that there were 3 shooting victims. We have confirmed that 2 are deceased. 1 is in stable condition in a local hospital.
The incident occurring at approximately 2:30 p.m. local time.
I can also report that the shooter, who has tentatively been identified as an active duty sailor assigned to USS Columbia, is also deceased by an apparent self-inflicted gunshot wound.
Honolulu EMS sending multiple ambulances to the scene. The fire department also responding with 6 units that included almost 24 firefighters. Base personnel alerted of the situation by text.
All I really saw was like a bunch of cars, and I heard a bunch of shots going off in the area. And we were told by my chief to hunker down, stay indoors, and just be safe.
The entire base put on lockdown, backing up traffic leading to Hickam Air Force Base and Pearl Harbor Naval Station. The gates eventually reopening. Base security and Naval Investigative Services now investigating the incident. Today's shooting comes just 3 days ahead of the anniversary of the Japanese attack on Pearl Harbor that plunged the United States into World War II. Richard Cantu, ABC News, New York.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for...
Okay, and there you go on that video and that report. And that does it for this morning edition of the Riley King Newscast, right here on the Riley King Network. I hope you all have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you back here later on today for another newscast. And I'll have a news report coming up in a little bit. Goodbye, everyone.